Dear student teachers and all the viewers, you are all welcome to today's program. Today we are going to learn one of the important areas in the field of education, that is techniques of testing English as a second language. Dear student teachers, you are all acquiring the requisite skills that are required to impart English language proficiency in our students. In your English pedagogy, you are learning all those things. You are learning different approaches, methods, techniques to help your students to attain language proficiency. In this context, there is one more that ability and skill you should attain is testing English. How to test English, how to retrieve result, how to help students with the help of that result, how can we make use of testing for their growth, for their English language development. All these things we shall learn today. Dear student teachers, you are also practicing different various approaches, methods, techniques in the classroom in your teaching practice. Also now you attended many tests in your in your education. Now it is a time you should acquire the skill of constructing a wonderful test in order to evaluate English proficiency in our children. Dear student teachers, we come across some terms in our teaching learning process. They are measurement, assessment, evaluation, tests. Let us try to understand these terms. Generally we use them interchangeably, but each term has its own meaning. They are interrelated, and all of them help us to evaluate students. Different ways to quantify and qualify the teaching learning process, that is test, measurement, assessment and evaluation. Let us try to understand what is meant by a test. A test or examination is an assessment intended to measure a test taker's knowledge of content assimilation. It is done by responding to a set of questions. Dear student teachers, we come across some terms: vocabulary test, reading comprehension test. All these are tests. And measurement. What is meant by measurement? Measurement can be defined as the process of assigning numbers to events based on an established set of rules. You know, the 2 marks questions, 5 marks questions that we evaluate, that award marks to students, that is a sort of a measurement. Measurement means assigning numbers to events that we take up for evaluation. For example, when we say a learner reads 300 words per minute, we are measuring the reading speed of the learner and assigning a numeric value, 300 words per minute. Let us try to understand what is meant by assessment. Assessment is a systematic process of gathering, interpreting and acting upon data related to students' learning and experience for the purpose of developing a deep understanding of what students know, understand and can do with their knowledge as a result of their educational experience. Hence, this is a broad term. Assessment, we need some data. We take the data from different sources. Observe this. We evaluate our students through some tests, some sleep tests. Sometimes we observe our students. We observe their written works. We understand their oral competence, that performance, and some other activities such as what we call debates, elocutions. All these activities that we take up in our schools will give data With the help of that data, we assess the performance of the children. And assessment is a sort of a cycle. It's a continuous cycle, dear student teachers. We take that concept, we teach that to our students, we implement that. That means we teach that concept to students. Then after that, while we are teaching and soon after completion of teaching, we assess the performance of the children. The assessment, it gives some result. For example, our students, they have understood our lesson, we start a new concept, teaching of new concept. If they fail to understand, our concept, we reteach the same concept by following different strategies. Hence, we use this assessment cycle in our regular teaching learning process in our classrooms. And for example, you take a lesson at a structure of plant. I teach that lesson, structure of plant, and I explain with the help of pictures and all those things. And while I am teaching, and soon after completion of my teaching of this concept, structure of plant, I assess the students' performance. I ask questions, and with some other activities, I gather data. With the help of that, the students are in the position to understand and they can give answers to my questions. I start new topic in my biology lesson. If they fail to understand, they fail to give answers, they fail to understand the structure of plant, I don't start new lesson. Hence, this is the cycle of assessment. And let us try to understand the uses of assessment. Why should we assess our students?
I'm sure you know the feeling of anticipation when you are about to take a quiz or test. Did you take detailed class notes and study enough? And you surely have been assigned with various essays. Did you give yourself enough time to research, write, and revise your essay in order to meet the requirements? Exams and essays, along with speeches and projects, are forms of assessment. Assessment is a critical step in the learning process. It determines whether or not the course's learning objectives have been met. A learning objective is what students should know or be able to do by the time a lesson is completed. Assessment affects many facets of education, including student grades, placement and advancement, as well as curriculum, instructional needs, and school funding. Let's look at a couple of the main effects of assessment. Student learning. Assessment is a key component of learning because it helps students learn. When students are able to see how they are doing in a class, they are able to determine whether or not they understand course material. Assessment can also help motivate students. If students know they are doing poorly, they may begin to work harder. Imagine this situation. Johnny is a chemistry student. He just took his final exam in his class. He earned a 56%. He needs a 79% to pass the class. The low exam score lets Johnny know that he missed something important he should have learned. Perhaps he did not understand the material, or maybe he did not study long enough. Whatever the case, the assessment results let Johnny know that he did not successfully learn the material and that he must try something new in order to earn a better score. Teaching. Just as assessment helps students, assessment helps teachers. Frequent assessment allows teachers to see if their teaching has been effective. Assessment also allows teachers to ensure students learn what they need to know in order to meet the course's learning objectives. Imagine this situation. Mrs. Brown is a 12th grade biology teacher. After finishing the unit on cell division, she gives a 50-point multiple choice test. Upon grading the exam, Mrs. Brown realized the average class grade was a 68%, far below the cutoff line for passing. Mrs. Brown can easily see that her students didn't fully learn cell division. This tells her that she needs to revisit the unit on cell division and determine why students failed the exam. Perhaps she may need to try a different teacher.
Okay, dear students, let us try to understand what is meant by evaluation. The term evaluation means to make judgment by providing marks and grades on the basis of level of achievement of the children's learning. And we evaluate, dear student teachers, public examinations, we evaluate in public examinations the achievement level of the students, we give certificate based on that. That means we give judgment here. And based on that that means we grades below average, satisfactory, very good, excellent and outstanding. And this just we have that we have learnt about assessment and evaluation, these two terms. What is the difference between these two terms? Further, let us try to understand very clearly. Assessment is to increase the quality. Assessment is to increase the quality of education that we give to students. Evaluation is to judge the quality. This is the difference between assessment and evaluation. Evaluation means after completion of our teaching a course, we evaluate, and based on that we judge the performance of the children by giving grades. For example, evaluation, in case you take some formative assessment is one example for assessment. Evaluation, that means final examinations after completion of the studies for SSC examinations, intermediate exam, final examinations are meant for evaluation. Let us try to understand the difference with the help of this video.
I'm going to explain how you're going to be specifically using it within your lesson plan. So assessment and evaluation are not the same things. They should not be used interchangeably because they have different purposes. So with assessment, what assessment does is it's a systematic collection, ongoing, to collect data in order to inform instruction. So it's these little small things that you're doing along the way to check for understanding. So that's why it's talking about an ongoing process. Systematic means that there's a structure to it, there's a pace to it. And again, you're collecting these pieces of information in order to inform your instruction. So let's say you're teaching a lesson, you're going to stop, you're going to ask a question. Okay, they kind of got it, they kind of didn't, let me say it a different way. All right, so now I've reset it. Now I'm going to have you work on this something at your tabletops. And as you're walking around, you're looking at what they're writing or what they're doing, and you're making an informed opinion about whether or not they're understanding, so it can inform your instruction in the moment. And then at the end, you know, you're going to discuss it, and you're saying, okay, so maybe they got it, maybe they didn't. Here's what I need to do tomorrow. So that's the assessment piece. It's this ongoing, constant, informal and formal way to check for understanding. Where evaluation is a one moment in time. In terms of thinking about it like assessment, you've done the instruction all along the way. You've stopped, you've assessed, you've modified instruction, you've come back, you've done it a little bit different. Now at the end of the unit, now's the time just to see, okay, what's the measurement against those outcomes? How do they do on these standards? How do they do on these TEKs? So there's a number of things that you're evaluating them on, and you're giving them kind of a one-shot opportunity to demonstrate what they know. And so another way to look at it is assessment is to increase the quality, and evaluation is to judge the quality after it's done. So it's a little bit about what I'm having you do right now. You've worked on a couple of the submissions, and I'm looking at those to say, okay, here's what needs to be done better. Maybe I need to go back and I need to reteach that part again. Maybe I need to add some additional opportunities, like going in and touching on blooms again, or maybe I need to tweak it a little bit and tell them to look about learning objectives in this way. So you're working towards that eventual evaluation with your final submission, where I'm sitting back and I'm like, okay, now here's these measurements that I need to.
Okay, student teachers, just we have just observed the difference between assessment and evaluation. Okay, what are maybe the examinations that we conduct in our schools is to develop students' learning. Improving students' learning is the primary goal of assessment. But in today we observe these examinations are creating a sort of depression or phobia in our students. We find great expectations from the parents and also stressful work in the schools and colleges, making students to attain a sort of stress and phobia because of examinations. That should be taken care, dear student teachers. And even from early age, even in schools, most of the time they are in stress because of their workload and examination phobia, and they attain examination stress, and we should think of the possible ways to overcome this problem in our schools and colleges. Even we come across some news here and there, students are committing suicides because of these examinations and the stress they undergo because of these examinations and result. And these are the some of the news we receive, even in our TV's news channels. We soon after the announcement of the result, we come across certain news about some that committing suicide, students committing suicides because of the result of the examinations. Hence, every one of us in the field of education should think of the solutions to provide joyful learning to our students, and only because of this the stress does not help our students to grow. Every student has his own pace of learning things, and education is education should help students to grow well in the field which they show interest. The teachers should identify the innate abilities and provide proper environment, which is the utmost utmost thing that is suggested by latest pedagogy principles. They say every child is unique, and based on that he should be grown. Examination should be joyful to students. They should be like festival. They should feel enjoyment. Examinations are for us. Examinations help us to know our strengths and weaknesses. Examinations are not to discriminate us as low achievement students or slow learners, backward students. That type of terms should be eliminated or eliminated in our classrooms. Hence, there will be only two types of students in our classrooms: present learners and future learners. Some students, they learn while we are teaching; they are present learners. Some students, they can learn. They may be named as titled as future learners. If you provide some scaffolding to them, they grow well. Hence, by the name of examinations, we should not discriminate them as backward students or slow learners, low achievement students. In such type of terms should be avoided, which create a great agony and struggle in the minds of the students. Examination should be like festival, that examinations give us opportunity to realize our own potential. The student should feel in that way. And also, examinations are for pleasure and not for pressure. and examinations are not the benchmarks for the success in life. Serious student teachers, you observe, you should that you should attain these concepts, and that you should make your students to understand these concepts while you are conducting examinations and giving result. That means there are many people, great people are there in this world in various fields. They have grown, they have developed in their field because of intrinsic motivation and hard work, not only because of the success, because of their success in the examinations. Along with that, that means examinations are the result of examinations are not, is not the benchmark. The result is not benchmark or a constraint for the development and growth of a person. And we should provide joyful learning in our schools. With free from this type of discriminations. Students' potentialities should be understood, and they should be properly channelized and grown, and they should come out as a very productive citizen from the schools. And why should we evaluate our students? And it involves collecting and analyzing information about the program's activities, characteristics and outcomes. Its purpose is to make judgments about a program, to improve its effectiveness, and to inform programming decisions. And the importance of assessment, let us see. Assessment addresses the issues of all the stakeholders as follows. Assessment or the testing will help our students to know their strengths and weaknesses. Students can understand their strengths and weaknesses because of assessment, and the result of assessment help teachers to develop their teaching skills. They can provide good learning experiences to the students, and this assessment helps students to prepare a wonderful curriculum which meets the individual needs of the learners and the society. Helps to provide a wonderful curriculum in our schools, and it gives information about the performance of the learners and the teachers, so that they take necessary measures to strengthen the academic standards of the school. Soon after announcement of the results of SSE, we can understand the quality of the school, the education that is being imparted in our schools. And because of that, management can take measures, and what are the problems in those schools, and provide necessary that help to those schools to help students to grow well, and to prepare a society linked curriculum to help the learners to attain the skills that are needed in the society. The assessment, the result of the school's performance help policy makers to take steps as per the needs of the society. Now, the government, they feel that residential schools they run successfully, and they are very helpful to students to grow well. Hence, government has taken decision to elevate the number of residential schools in different categories. Hence, it provides feedback to the students and parents. The marks will give feedback to parents, and based on that feedback, parents think of the future career of their kids. It gives an account of the progress of the learners to the parents and help them in identifying the career. And it gives some information to society. Assessment gives a clear picture to the society about the performance of the school and how the existing curriculum equips the learners to meet the challenges posed by the society. And we can provide need-based material and resources to the students based on their interest, which we understand through assessment, and we can provide remedial teaching. We can help our students to, and we scaffold our students by understanding their the gaps, the problems while they are learning. We can help our students, and because of that scaffolding, our students will grow well. Let us try to understand what are the qualities of a good test. Dear student teachers, we have wonderful tests, textbooks with us, and our curriculum is very effective. And here in that we come across academic standards, listening and responding, reading comprehension, grammar, vocabulary, conventions of writing, creative expression. These are our academic standards. That means our students should be in the position to listen to English and speak simple English, respond. That means they should read English and understand that. They should have grammar knowledge, and also they need some vocabulary to express their ideas effectively. They should know conventions of writing, and they should have ability to express their ideas through writing, that we call creative expression. It may be of oral or it may be written. Hence, we have also that means learning outcomes suggested by NCERT. These learning outcomes are the class specific and subject specific, and they are, these learning outcomes are common in our entire country, and we have those learning outcomes. With the help of these learning outcomes and academic standards, we should prepare a test. A test should address all these things. And one quality of a good test is validity. The test is said to be a valid test if it is able to address all the objectives of learning. In English, 6 academic standards are expected to be achieved by the students by the end of the year. The testing items should cover all the academic standards. Just to be observed academic standards, dear student teachers. Our students should be in the position to read information which is there in this world, and they should understand that information. That is one academic standards. In order to achieve that, we have reading comprehension questions in our question paper. Creative expressions, that means they should be in the position to convey their ideas through writing. For that, we have creative expression, that area in our question paper. Hence, we should our question paper, our test should reflect all these things. Then authenticity. This is the next the characteristic of good test is authenticity. That means why we are teaching English. Our students should be in the position to make use of this English proficiency in their day-to-day life. Hence, our test should also be related to test their knowledge and test their proficiency they make use in their day-to-day life. In this way, you give a question like that. Write a letter to the municipal commissioner about the bad condition of roads in your area. That means here, that means this is one authentic question which we use in our classrooms. That means our students should be in the position to, in their in their day-to-day life, they should be in the position to that address this type of problems. Hence, this is known as authenticity. Hence, our students should make use of English language proficiency that they learn in the classroom in their day-to-day life. Hence, our testing also should be like that. Write a letter to your uncle about Haritaharam program that has been taken place recently. Give that question. That means they convey that is useful in their day-to-day life. Hence, this type of questions should be included in our testing. Then reliability is one other quality. Hence, for example, you conduct a test to students, you conduct the same test after some time should yield same result. Same test different time should give same result is called reliability. Testing phenomenon at 2 different times used to assess the consistency of a measure from one time to another. Usability. The test should be easy to construct, easy to administer, easy, that should be economical. This type of this should also be one of the qualities of a good test. Variety is a wonderful quality that every test should possess. That means, dear students, discriminatory, that is also known as discriminatory. A good test meets needs and purposes of all the learners who are in different levels. Questions should be in different difficulty levels. Such a mix of questions help the teachers to rank the pupils. This test should address cognitive, affective and psychomotor domains of the children. Hence, we know in our classroom, children, they are with different abilities. Every child is unique. They have different types of intelligences. One will be wizard in grammar, one may be a wonderful storyteller, one person may be very good in preparing a notice or drawing one poster. Hence, one may be in the position to develop poems. Hence, different that abilities are there in different students. All these abilities are to be tested, and our test should address all these students. Hence, a good test should possess variety of questions which can measure or evaluate the performance of different students with different abilities. One may show one may show intelligence in drawing, one may show intelligence in developing that one story. Is a good writer may be there. One may be good in drawing. Hence, our test should address all these things. These questions should be included in our test paper, in that question paper. And this shows that students we come across in our classroom with different abilities. Don't give the same test may not be suitable. Hence, individual differences. Every child is unique. Innate abilities are there in every child. They should be identified and properly channelized. That should be the aim of our testing, one of the aims of our testing students. Nowadays, dear student teachers, the person who can, that means who stood first in that competitions, running competition at school level, is equally the competent, the person who achieved first rank in the examinations. Hence, one may show competence in bodily kinesthetic intelligence, one may show academic intelligence. Hence, this should be addressed in our examinations. Dear students, external examinations are largely inappropriate for the knowledge society of the 21st century, and its need for innovative problem solvers. And so we are implementing CCE in our schools. CCE states that evaluation should not be one moment activity. Every activity of the child should be assessed. It should be comprehensive. It should cover both curricular and co-curricular areas of the learner. Cognitive growth, affective growth and psychomotor growth should be evaluated in our tests. Hence, we are implementing this CCE, you are aware of that, and we use two types of tests in CCE. One test is known as formative assessment, other one is known as summative assessment. And we come across, based on the questions, we have two types of tests. One is subjective testing and objective testing. A subjective test is evaluated by giving an opinion. It can be compared with an objective test which has right or wrong answers, and so can be marked objectively. See, subjective questions are questions that require answers in the form of explanations. Subjective questions include essay questions, short answers, definitions, scenario questions and opinion questions. All the essay questions and short answer questions, they come under subjective test, dear student teachers. You know all these things. Objective test, an objective test is a test that has right or wrong answers, and so can be marked objectively. Objective tests are popular because they are easy to prepare and take, quick to mark and provide quantifiable and concrete result. And we come across, let us try to understand the differences between formative assessment and summative assessment. Dear student teachers, formative assessment is ongoing evaluation. It is a continuous evaluation. We call it as formative evaluation. It gives regular feedback to the students. It is carried out at frequent intervals. You know, we conduct formative assessment tests in our schools nowadays. You are all aware of those tests. And summative examinations are public examinations, or maybe final examinations. It may be offerly examinations, we may call them as summative examinations. They are conducted at the end of a program to measure its success. It is the final placement of the performance of the learners. And based on that, let us try to understand tools for formative assessment. We use different tools in formative assessment. You observe them: reading and reflection, written work, project work, sleep test. These are called tools. As an English teacher, we should make use of these tools in our classroom. You should take up a formative assessment by using these tools. Let us understand how do we use these tools. Just to observe oral testing. How do we, that means English is for speaking. Hence, primary stage, from primary stage we teach, we test our students oral performance. Let us try to understand within 1 or 2 minutes this small video.
Penelope.
Hello, Penelope.
Hello.
My name's Anne.
Hello, Anne.
Okay, Penelope, look at this. It's a beautiful day.
Yes.
The boy's happy.
Mhm.
Here's the apple.
Yes.
Where's the man?
This.
Very good. Where are the trees? Where are the trees? That's right, very good. Now, Penelope, look at these. Which is the flower? Very good. I'm putting the flower on the sun. Now you put the flower next to the house. Excellent. Which is the dress?
Dear student teacher, just you observed one oral test. Hence, we conduct a oral test to the primary students, and that test taker, that means the teacher has shown a picture. This picture, it gives many ideas, develops many ideas in the student, and she used that for testing oral, that means performance of the student, that oral competence, that means of the students. This we call a oral test. Oral test should be should be conducted at the primary level to the primary students. Let us try to understand what is meant by assessment of learning, assessment as learning, assessment for learning. See, assessment of learning is summative learning. Summative, that means its main purpose is to grade or certify students' achievement. Assessment of learning. And assessment as learning, we help our students to know their strengths and weaknesses, and because of that they choose their career in their future education. That is assessment as learning. Assessment for learning, we call it as formative assessment. It helps our teachers, and they conduct assessment for learning. They conduct this test. With the help of that, they develop their teaching skills. Hence, it involves teachers using evidence about students' knowledge, understanding and skills to inform their teaching. And let us try to understand these formative assessment tools. Just one is reading and reflection activity. Our students should read. This is a very important skill. How do you conduct reading and reflection activity? We should provide reading material to students. Give material to students, they read that material. You provide books, children friendly books, because reading is very important activity. That means important skill that our students should attain. This is because of that they attain wonderful knowledge. The knowledge in this world is in English. They should access internet and read things, and they should visit libraries and read books, and they should also refer OERs, open educational resources, and in primary stage help them to read reading cards, and you may provide storybooks to children to read and motivate them to read books, some magazines, newspapers, recipes, and finally after giving this this type of material, help them to read. Give one task to children. Dear students, you read this information and write your reflection. Read this small story book, write your reflection. That means give your opinion and come to classroom, share that information with your friends. This is task. With the help of that, teacher assesses the performance of the child. That is one way. Written works, this is one tool. How do you test written work? You observe notebooks of the children. There will be textual exercises in their notebooks. Observe them. Hence, observe the answers that are generated by the students, given by the students on analytical questions. There will be vocabulary and grammar exercises we find in students' notebooks, and the study skills, and all these things you observe students' notebooks, that means written works in their notebooks, and based on that evaluate their performance. Hence, dear student teachers, this is we call formative assessment. This assessment is not one moment activity. Generally we used to take up at the end of the academic year. It should be continued. We should assess students regularly, observe their notebooks, encourage them to read and reflect, and this is the way of assessing students. Answers to the analytical questions, and you observe the posters, notices, the project. That means these all things include they are in written work. And one other area of other tool is project works. These project works are there in our English textbook. They are very effective. These they link the classroom teaching to their day-to-day life. Assign that project, give practice in the classroom, let our students attend those practice, come back and say to class. With the help of their performance, you evaluate the performance of the children. See, this one task is homemade food is better than junk food. Give this task as project. Now one member in each group should make presentation before the entire class. It will be one project. Give this task to groups. And you may think of projects on water conservation. You make that one other tool here, slip test. You conduct slip test. There is no prior notice for conducting slip test. It is done in a limited time. You may conduct slip test, and slip test should cover the discourses also. The allocation of marks for slip test is like this: reading comprehension 5 marks, vocabulary exercise 5 marks, grammar exercise 5 marks, creative writing, that means discourse 5 marks. In that way you conduct slip tests. With the help of all these tools we receive data. Hence, dear student teachers, today just we observed different types of techniques of testing English as a second language. Hence, these testing skills are very much helpful to you and your students. You should attain these skills and implement this CC, that means implement this the process of conducting formative tests and the process of conducting summative tests, and all these texts with the help of this testing make your students to attain wonderful language skills. Tests are there not to create a phobia in the students. Tests are there to help students to know their strengths and weaknesses and grow well and attain wonderful and joyful learning to become that means wonderful citizens in the society. Wish you very good luck, dear student teachers. All the best.